If you already follow a low carbohydrate way of eating, so a ketogenic diet of some or other description, and there are various types of ketogenic diets ranging from vegan ketogenic to carnivore ketogenic, all it means is you don't eat sugar and you don't use sugar as your primary fuel source. If you have bought into the ketogenic theory and you understand how it works and it's working for you, then you, at some point, if you're not already, will become carnivore curious like I did, because I had a lot of people following my channel writing carnivore as a comment below the videos. Just carnivore, simple carnivore. And I was like, no, that doesn't chime with what I've always understood and what I learned when I studied biology and biochemistry. And so in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about carnivore and why a lot of people find it a little difficult to accept. And I'm going to tell you what I did to try and see for myself what the benefits and problems might be. So welcome to SHAPEFIXER. I'm Andrew. I am a nutritionist. I have a background in biochemistry and chemistry and biology, and I'm also a sportsman, so my energy regulation and energy supply is very important to me. And like all of us, I grew up believing that the government issued dietary guidelines were based on science. I now know that they were not. And believing that I needed a lot of carbohydrates, particularly as a sportsman, doing a lot of running and cycling and triathlons, that I particularly needed more carbohydrates than most people. And that sort of informed my learning as I went. And I grew up believing that a predominantly plant-based diet was the way to go. You needed to have variation, get all your nutrients and all that stuff. Okay, so that doesn't preclude you from going ketogenic. And I learned about sugar and carbohydrates and blood insulin, blood glucose, diabetes, heart disease, all these other horrific conditions that we develop through time as we get older that actually are rooted in the overconsumption of sugars, whether that's straight sugar, lots of desserts, too many candies, or whether it's just too much pasta, too much bread, too many potatoes. So I went onto a low ketogenic diet and I had some quite remarkable health results. I had become obese, I had heart problems, and I just thought, well, you know, late 50s, this is what happens. And unfortunately, it is what happens because most people are eating the wrong diet. Anyway, I went onto this low sugar diet and pretty much fixed everything. Lost a lot of weight, my blood pressure came down, my heart arrhythmias sorted themselves out without the surgery that was recommended by the doctors. I'm going to put a link to a video below specifically about that because it's quite an interesting story. And I was fine. And so that informed my teaching and my consulting and the videos that I make, encouraging people, explaining to them why they need to cut carbohydrates out of their diet. But there was this carnivore thing that people kept dropping at me. Carnivore, hey, try carnivore. So what I did is I said, right, you know what? I'm going to go carnivore for a month, just a month, and I'm going to see what happens, because I don't really want to do it for more than a month. It sounds a little bit radical. And for starters, what's my gut going to say? You know, I won't be getting any fiber. That was the first thing that I thought of when I was have digestive issues, let's say bathroom issues from not having enough fiber. Anyway, so I made a video and I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back in a month. And that was over a year ago. And I eat I would say a 95% carnivore diet. And I have done ever since that little 1 month experiment over a year ago, because it worked so well. And I'm not going to go into a lot of science in this video because I've done 250 videos on science and biochemistry and I can't reincorporate all that into this. What I'm going to do in this video is just tell you what happened to me. I'm doing another video, which I will link below this one, that goes into some of the aspects of a carnivore diet that people find difficult to accept, like the fiber question, for example. So have a look at that one as well if you have doubts, and just hear what that's all about. I've done separate videos on fiber and saturated fat. It goes into quite a lot of detail, into quite a lot of science and research. So I'll link them down here as well. But let's get to the point here. I went onto a carnivore diet. Now that means, it doesn't mean I had a steak every day. It means I limited myself to animal-based foods. So red meat, lots of fat. Yes, it's saturated fat, that's fine. Lots of fatty red meat. That could be pork, beef, mutton, buffalo, any goat. And in the form of cuts of meat, sausages, burger patties, anything like that, minced meat or ground beef, because those have more fat and cartilage and offal in them, which is very healthy. So lots of meat, fatty meat. Chicken, not quite as much because it's quite lean. If you do have chicken, you want to make sure you have oil or butter with it and eat the skin. Lots of fish, oily fish, especially to get the omega-3 oils that are so essential. Eggs, which are like a superfood. And lots of butter and lard. Now, I do have a handful of cashew nuts every now and again. I like to drink coffee. I mean, it's not like I have no plant products in my body. It's not a religion. It's a principle. But what happened? What was different then from that after being ketogenic for quite a long time? Well, I lost even more body fat and I put on muscle. So my body composition is quite different now. I have clearer head. I have more mental energy through the day. I have more physical energy during the day. Now, this is really interesting because I'm still training every day. And in fact, I'm training between 7 and 9 times a week. A combination of weights, running, cycling, and then some more cardio work in the gym on the elliptical machine or on a treadmill. Yeah, it's weather dependent. And I can go for a 4-hour bike ride and I have no energy issues whatsoever. No highs and lows, no spikes. I never get dropped. I don't eat breakfast and I'll go out for a 4-hour bike ride and not get hungry. I take water with electrolytes, salts, so I don't cramp. But this isn't a sports training video either. That was just to illustrate the point that your energy supply from the fat that you eat is better than the energy you get from eating sugars and carbohydrates. So I have a better energy balance through the day. I eat less. I actually eat less than I was eating before. Because plants fill you up and a lot of it is fiber and it's not digestible and it does nothing for you and you have to eat again. But what happened to my gut? Because that was the biggest thing. Well, the answer is pretty much nothing. I am regular, although it's probably 3 times a week now instead of 7 times a week. But when I go, it's a quick, easy job. The consistency is right. I have no bloating, which I used to have. I have no constipation. I just have no issues whatsoever. And I don't eat any fiber. And as I said, I've done a video on fiber, so you can go and watch the video on fiber. But the carnivore diet for me has been an absolute revelation. And so one looks at this is anecdotal evidence. It's one person's story and their personal perception. But there are a lot of people who do this and they will tell you the same thing. It's still anecdotal. And what we look for in science is proper randomized controlled double-blind trials with big groups of people, and well, there aren't any because it's very difficult to do. You can't lock 1,000 people up in a laboratory and force feed them particular food types over a 10-year period to see who's going to have better health. Those experiments don't exist. What you're down to is epidemiological studies where you ask people, what did you eat? And then you weigh them and you check their blood and you monitor them over a period to see who has a heart attack, and you try and tease the data out like that. But people don't remember what they eat. You can't ask them every 4 years, what has your average protein intake been? What, over the last 4 years? They can remember what they had for breakfast. Maybe. So, and how consistent were they? It's very difficult to do. And you can't do experiments on people deliberately feeding them food that we think is unhealthy to check whether or not it's actually unhealthy. You can't do experiments where you deliberately try to see how fat you can make people. So these types of studies are never really going to be there, and you've got to go on then the overall bulk of anecdotal evidence. Now we know what the standard Western diet does because we've seen it. That has been recommended in America since 1977, in the UK since 1980. High grain, high carbohydrate, high plant, low fat diets, and type 2 diabetes has spiraled almost out of control. Obesity levels are completely off the clock. Heart disease is completely off the clock, and it is correlated very, very, very closely with the date at which these guidelines came in. We know sugar causes diabetes. We know sugar leads to heart disease. Yes, we know that. We also know that a lot of people go off sugar and they feel and look a lot better, and their blood markers are better, and their tests are better, and they have less illness, and they live longer, and they live happier. And Carnivore is showing the same thing. So when you say to me, well, it's all great that you're feeling wonderful and you've had a year of superb health and you look 10 years younger and you're thriving and you're spending less money because you're not eating as much anymore and you've got lots of energy, you don't know what the 20-year outcome is going to be. Well, guess what? I know how I'm feeling right now, and I'll take that, thanks. And I do know what the 20-year outcome is going to be if I continue to follow the dietary guidelines and eat lots of grains and carbohydrates, because I've been there. I was obese and I had heart problems and I was on the verge of surgery. So I'm not having that. Now, what I would say to you if you're going to try a carnivore diet is you must keep the variation. You don't only eat red meat. Eat the fish. Eat the oily fish. Eat butter. Cook with lard or tallow. And if you want to supplement, you probably don't really need a lot of supplements. If you're on a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, you definitely need supplements, but that's for a different video. There are nutrients in animals that you just cannot get from plants at all. Like 2 of the 3 omega-3 oils, for example, most of the vitamin Bs, vitamin B12 being the most important one. But on an animal-based diet with meat, fish, eggs, and high cream dairy, so not the milk, but the cream or the butter or the cheese, you will be getting everything you need so long as you have the variation. And don't eat the processed stuff. Eat the stuff that looks real. Eat meat that looks like meat. Eat fish that looks like a fish. And you might supplement with omega-3 oils just to make sure if you're not eating as much fish. You might supplement with a little bit of collagen, which I do because I had hip arthritis. I don't have it anymore, but I don't want it to come back. So I'm making sure that I keep my cartilage healthy. So I want to be able to produce collagen. I might not need it. I might get enough amino acids in the food I eat to build all my own collagen, but I take a collagen supplement anyway, just to be sure. And electrolytes I take because of the sport. So if I'm going out riding 4 hours on a bike, I'm sweating a lot. I live in Spain. It's really hot here. So I take electrolytes, which are salts, just to keep the balance in so that my muscles keep operating and I don't cramp. I mean, that's a bit of a no-brainer. And salt. I'm not afraid to put salt on my food. A lot of us have been scared witless of salt. Linking a video on salt down here. And we don't eat salt, and we don't eat salt, and we don't eat salt. And you have a medical emergency, you go to the hospital, and the first thing they do is put you on a saline drip. What? They inject you with salt water. Oh, but we weren't supposed to be eating salt. So it's nuts. Salt is fine. Your body will tell you when to stop eating salt because you won't like the taste anymore. So that's my take on the carnivore diet. It has worked for me amazingly. My wife is now becoming more and more and more carnivore, and she is looking amazing. And she's also a sports person, athlete. And she did a 100 kilometer, 62-mile mountain race 2 weeks ago and ran using butter as her fuel source. And she ran in a group with a bunch of people from my running club, and they were all taking carbohydrates and gels and energy bars, and they all made it to the end of the race, but all of them had stomach problems along the way. They had energy highs, energy lows, upset stomachs, vomiting, this, that, and the other, constantly trying to monitor how many carbs they took and when, and she was just having like 2 teaspoons of butter every hour, and she was absolutely fine. So the carnivore diet works. There aren't long-term structured scientific studies to see what will happen to you after 20 years, but there's nothing to show that anything untoward is going to happen. Heart disease is down, weight is down, energy is up. It's a bit of a no-brainer. Now, this is not to say that this is a diet that everybody should follow, because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with having some vegetables in your diet. And if you really love your vegetables, hey, you've got to enjoy your life. That's fine. So long as you're not eating things that you're intolerant to. So some vegetables can present problems to some people, particularly if you have autoimmune issues. There's a video below here about autoimmune and diet. And just understand that there are issues with plants in terms of the anti-nutrient content, and some of the vitamins and minerals that are in the plants are not going to be bioavailable to you when you eat the plants, and people will neglect to tell you that. But the carnivore diet for me worked brilliantly. Check out the next video, which I'm going to link here, which addresses the issues people have with it. Okay, bells. Okay, the bells have stopped. I do like them. Eat vegetables as a sort of side on your main meal. Don't restrict yourself to vegetables, because plants do not give you all the nutrients that you need, and you will need a lot of supplements. Now, of course, people have religious issues, they have ethical issues, they have ideas about what's good for the environment, what's not good for the environment. And so there are a lot of other concerns that come into people deciding what to eat. There's cost, there's availability, there's personal taste. And I'm not talking about those things. I'm talking about the nutrition and the nutrients that are available in your food. My point is that the carnivore diet is fine. You will get everything you need if you eat a proper, balanced, broad carnivore diet. You will not get all you need if you're on a vegan diet. If you are kind of mixing and matching, you'll probably get everything you need, but don't avoid animal products if it's about your health. Okay, if it's about your religion or about some other concern, then that's a different issue altogether. Thank you for watching. Please watch the other videos linked here, particularly the one that addresses things like fiber and phytonutrients and the other issues that people have with the carnivore diet and the questions that are most commonly raised, because I'm going to address them in the other video. Thank you for subscribing to our channel, and please share this video with anyone else who might be, shall we say, carnivore curious.